DeLon ran a gauntlet of backslaps, handshakes, and good to see yous as he made his way behind the chutes to dump his gear bag. It was marquee night in the bareback riding. He couldn't turn around without tripping over a world champion. Casey Field, Bobby Moat, Will Lowe, Stephen Peebles. Not ready. Not ready. He angrily squashed the little worm of doubt that kept slithering into his subconscious. He'd done the work. His knee felt fine. It was his head that had tripped him up in Nacogdoches. If he could get his mind right. His phone buzzed. Gil, again. Quit fighting your head and let your wild hair loose. DeLon shook his head and typed, "What wild hair?" "It's there, but until you find it, borrow mine. Don't have much use for it tonight." The familiar pain tugged in DeLon's chest. Gil should be standing beside him. He'd be one of those gold buckle boys by now, if only. "I'm watching live online, so ride like you give a damn." "Yes, boss." DeLon tucked the phone away with a little itch between his shoulder blades as if he could feel Gil's gaze. Pressure built inside him, a swelling, whirling supercell of energy and emotion. He tried to push it aside, breathe through to his usual calm, but voices and phrases and memories rumbled through his mind like thunder. Gil, eyes dark and intense. "Rodeo is a jealous bitch. You gotta give her your whole heart." Tore his hand on his thigh, pushing him past his comfort zone. The way she'd looked at him as he leaned against Gil's car and said, "It suits you, strong and fast." He wasn't Gil, or the guy in that song, laying it all on the line for one big score, 90 or nothing. But his pulse kicked into a new, unfamiliar gear. He had the horse to do it. The first few jumps were doozies, but if he set his feet and picked her up, she'd go straight in the air, kicking over her head and giving him a chance to show off, assuming she didn't blow him out the back before they got that far. "You could stick your heels in her shoulders and hold him through the tough part," the devil whispered in his ear. "Be safe, get into the short round, and give away at least 5 points." He shook off the buzzing thoughts and started warming up to his usual playlist, but the harsh guitar riffs grated on his nerves. Halfway through, he switched to the new song and put it on repeat. His heart thumped along with the heavy beat. He pulls into the bright lights. Time to lay it on the line. Boots, chaps, vest, spurs. He donned his gear piece by piece, his elbow already taped by the sports medicine crew. He bent to wrap and tie the long leather straps around the tops of his boots, the energy level around him rising as contractors and crew yelled orders. The chute boss strode past and called down, "You're number 3, DeLon." Outside the main gate, the flag bearers' horses shuffled impatiently, waiting to burst into the arena for the grand entry. The broncs banged and snorted up the alley and into the chutes, gates ramming shut behind each in turn. DeLon's horse tossed her head and blew out a large, challenging huff. He braced a foot on either side of the chute to straddle the piebald mare. As he settled the rigging into place, the song continued to echo in his head. "Feels the leather, hears the rosin burnin'." The lights of the Coliseum dimmed and everything paused at the opening strains of the national anthem. DeLon straightened and took off his hat, but instead of bowing his head, he let his gaze run around the packed house. His already overstimulated senses opened up, drinking in every sight and smell, all the faces, the buzz of expectation. He took a deep breath and sucked their energy into his lungs, felt it burn through his veins like a shot of whiskey. Rising adrenaline puts his heart in perfect time. The grand entry thundered out and the announcer's voice crackled with excitement. "Coming out of chute number 1." The mare shifted restlessly beneath him as a chute gate banged open and the crowd roared its approval of the first ride. The buzzer sounded and the pickup men closed in, setting the cowboy safely on the ground. Overhead, the big screen replayed the ride and DeLon dimly registered a score in the high 70s. Good, not great. As the gate man moved to the next horse out, the chute boss yelled, "On deck, DeLon." He drew another long, deep breath, fighting for his usual control, but it was nowhere to be found. The thunderheads inside him roiled and crackled, lighting up every neuron, flooding every muscle fiber with adrenaline. Branded brave or just insane, to him it's really all the same. Why not be that guy? He had nothing left to lose. Steady, reliable DeLon Sanchez had been stomped into the mud, stripped down to nothing and reassembled from the scraps by a woman who attacked every setback like a personal insult, a brother who roared through life with the accelerator jammed to the floorboard, and a son who would idolize him no matter what happened in the next 8 seconds. All they asked of him was one thing: 90 or nothing. He glanced down the back of the chutes and saw Casey Field standing, feet braced, arms crossed, eyes fierce, as he waited his turn. Not a hint of uncertainty there. He was human, just like DeLon. Not any stronger, not any faster. If DeLon's body was up to the challenge, what was to stop him from rocking this arena? Nothing but himself. "You're next, DeLon." Settling onto the mare's back, he felt the twitch of her muscles winding up to explode. He ran his hand in deep and worked it back and forth until the bind felt just right, then pounded his fingers tight around the grip with his other fist. As he waited for the arena to clear from the previous ride, DeLon bowed his head over his rigging and stared down at the initials burned into the leather. G.A.S. He slid his hips up snug against the rigging and, without thinking, pressed 2 fingers to the initials, then to his heart. Screw careful. He cocked his free arm back, nodded for the gate, and let the storm break.